Previously, we finished installing our water system. This is for the fresh water that supplies our hand sink in the bus. Now, I did a really unique system using pressure tanks instead of a pump to run our whole water system, and it's an experimental system. I wanted to try it out and see how it would work. Where we left off, I was pressure testing the system to make sure there was no leaks. I thought everything was going fine until I came back to check the pressure gauge and it had dropped. We had a leak in the system. I started going back over all my connections and testing it with the water, soapy water, to see if I could get bubbles. I took apart everything. I couldn't find it until finally it was right down here by the pressure tank. You can see I disconnected some things here, and this wasn't here before. I just have that on there to seal the line off. Both of these tank fittings were leaking. These were compression fittings. The pipe went in there and had a compression fitting on it. Both of them leaked. Now, I couldn't believe that both of my pressure tanks were leaking at those compression fittings. I thought I did something wrong, so I undid them, I redid them, and I put like a thread compound all over inside there, pushed the pipe in extra tight, tightened it down, tested it again. They still leaked. No matter what I did, loose, tight, I tried new pipes, I could not get those compression fittings to just hold. They wouldn't hold air. So, plan B. We're going to redo the whole tank fittings and not use the ones they supplied with the tanks. And we're going to make a leak-proof system. So, let's get this fixed. So I'm going to try to use this reducer to go from the 1-inch output on the tank to a 1/2-inch output, and then go straight to my 3/8 inch polypropylene pipe. So let's see if that works. Both tanks are done. So I switched over the old plastic hardware thing with stainless steel and the pipe quick connect system. So I think that we're gonna have a success this time. Let's try it out. But now we gotta get these all back installed. And just to be sure, I did pressure test the system with the tanks unhooked. That's why I put this valve here, so I could disconnect them and have the line closed. And the bus held pressure for days and days without the tanks. Well, I got the tanks hooked back up. Check this out. So what I did was I pushed my pipe into the fitting, comes straight out into an elbow, into a valve, into a Y, and out to the water system. I did a valve on each tank, and I think this system is going to be leak proof. The good news, we passed the pressure test. Ideally, I'd let it sit overnight. I'm being a little impatient, but I haven't seen the needle move. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's fixed. There's no more leaks. that means we're ready to water test the system, and this is the exciting part. So I'm going to hook it up just like I would in a normal situation, and we're going to see how this all turns out. Let's use my stretchy hose. Horrible.
Come on.
Oh. So we've been pressure testing the system with water, and so far so good. We've been experimenting with it. In fact, I filled it, I ran the sink, drained the tank, filled it again. I wanted to really test it out before I came back and told you guys how it's working. And we're happy to say that it is working. It works awesome so far. The pressure gauge, hooked to the hose, fully filled, it's sitting just under 30 psi, which is lower than I expected, but it is sitting there, and I don't know how much water is in these tanks. There could be air trapped in them. I don't know about bleeding out these kind of tanks, how it works. So this is how the system works. I explained it already, but the hose is filling into the manifold, which goes over to these tanks. These tanks fill up with water, and as long as that hose is attached, we can use the water in the bus, we could turn on the sink, we can use it continuously. We could fill our water filter. It doesn't hurt anything to just stay filled up, because once these reach their max fill, they just sit there and replenish the system as you use the system. So that's kind of cool. But when we disconnect the hose, let me do that. Now the system is fully disconnected from the house, and there's a check valve, a one-way valve in the fill port on the back of the bus. So the water is now trapped in the system, and we have these two pressure tanks with pressurized water in it. So now we still got our 30 psi basically. We can go in the bus and use gallons and gallons of water without any pumps, without any power, without turning anything on. It's just silent running water. And that is really kind of neat. It's a neat concept,
Yeah.
I think. So far, like I said, no leaks. Everything's looking good. Each tank is supposed to hold 14 gallons of water, so there should be 28 gallons here. And the first test that I did, I let it fill up, and I just let the sink run and run and run. And we more than half filled our 20-gallon gray water tank. So we had more than 10 gallons of water in there. I don't know how much. It was over half full. So we should be getting more water out of these tanks. But I don't know if I just didn't fill them all the way or what. So now we're in the bus. I'm going to show you guys how the water looks, the pressure and everything. And this is totally disconnected from the house. This is just working off the pressure tanks. That's full blast, and it's actually pretty hard. I mean, it's got some pressure there. We're going to do a systems test where the water tank is full. The bus is unhooked from the hose, so it's isolated right now. I'm going to run the faucet, and we're going to see how long this will run on pressure tanks alone. We should have about 28 gallons of water in the tanks. Let's see how much comes out. wanted to see how much gallons would come out. And, wow. So it looks like the water just stopped, and we were running just 18 to 19 minutes in that range. I'll check it later when we do the editing. And I can't believe I missed the end. That was so sad. What happened was Ashley told me that the tank was getting full outside, the drain tank. And sure enough, it was at the very top and starting to overflow out the vent. And I didn't want to get water all in the shed. So I ran out there to hurry up and open up the drain so I could drop some of that water. And I missed the ending. But anyway, the tank was full. That means we got about 20 gallons of water out of this because we have a 20-gallon graded water tank and we filled it. Now there was probably a few gallons in the bottom from previous uses where it didn't drain all the way because it just can't get out of the bottom of the tank the way the drain pipes come out of it. If this is 1 gallon per minute, I would say we at least got 18 gallons of water out of there. So that was pretty good. Much less than we hoped for. Well, not much less, but we thought the tanks hold 28 gallons of water. If we're getting near 20, I think I'm happy with that. So that's the full system test. We'll say 18 to 20 gallons of water came out. It was usable pretty much the whole time. We didn't lose much pressure. You could wash your hands. You could do whatever you need to do. To refill the system, you just hook it back up to the hose and it pressurizes the tanks all over again. So pretty easy and it only takes a couple minutes. So the system so far is a total success. I'm so happy with it. Now, like I said previously in the other video, was how long will it last? How will those rubber bladders hold up to draining down, filling up, banging around and vibrating in the bus? Depending on how long those rubber bladders in the tanks last, that could make or break the system because those tanks aren't cheap and you don't want to be replacing them all the time. So it's going to be an experiment, but I'm looking forward to it because this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The system takes up more space than if you just had a water tank with water. But like I said, we omitted the pump, and usually with a system like that, you still need a small pressure tank and other electronics to control it all. We'll test it out. We'll give you guys an update, like if it ever goes bad or anything happens to it. So far, just in the trial run, I'm pretty impressed with how much pressure it has.
Yeah, and I like the faucet. The water comes out good out of that.
Yeah, our faucet doesn't have any aerator on it, so it just comes out a nice steady stream, and that just feels nice. So anyway, as you guys can probably see, it's getting late, so we're going to go in. We just wanted to share with you the new water system, how it works, how it drains, and if we had any problems, and you guys saw it all. So thanks for watching. We'll be back soon with another video, and until next time, take care.
Bye.
And I'll give you a sneak peek of the gray water tank right here. This was all the way up and it was coming out my vent. I'm going to have a tube on this later on, but that's how high it got, all the way up to there. We got to drain this. And this is where the drain tank sits when it's about empty, right here. And we had filled all the way up until it was coming out this hole. It literally started coming out. So that's a 20-gallon tank. We made it up to there with one fill of water.